Hey everyone, welcome back to the Infinite Podcast. I'm your host, and alongside me is the one and only Simon. Today we're diving into the ever-controversial world of pineapple on pizza. Is it a culinary crime or a misunderstood masterpiece? Simon, brace yourself. I'm ready to stand as the voice of reason against this fruit pizza fiasco. Your thoughts?
Brace myself. Joe, I was born ready for this one. Pineapple on pizza is like putting ice cubes in milk. It's not a crime, but come on, who woke up and thought fruit on pizza was a peak idea? Not me, that's for sure. It's a hard no from me, buddy.
Absolutely, man. But here's a curveball. I'm pulling a pineapple advocate move. Can you believe it? It's the sweetness and the tang Simon pie. It cuts through the salty cheeses and ham. Okay, maybe it's no steak tartare, but let's not shut our doors to the Hawaiian vibe on a pizza crust. Throw that ice cube milk ideology out. Pizza's wilder than that.
Oh, Joe, you're pulling the pineapple card? Look, I like a Hawaiian shirt as much as the next guy, but fruit on a pizza is where I draw the line. It's a texture travesty, sweeter than my grandma's perfume on a hot day. It just don't belong. Keep the Hawaiian vibes for the beach, not my dinner plate.
Texture travesty, huh? I get it, Simon. Not everyone can handle that bold mix. But here's another hot one. Pet peeves. How about we share what gets under our skin? Like when people say espresso instead of espresso, makes me want to launch a coffee bean intervention. What's your number one pet peeve, buddy?
Oh, that's easy. Loud chewers, Joe. It's like they're trying to make music with their mouths or something. And that's a concert I never bought tickets for.
So Simon, if loud chewing was a genre of music, what would we call it? Munch and crunch melodies? Gobble step? The audience needs to know.
Gobble step. That's perfect. It's got that wubby bass line that sounds just like someone smacking their lips. Plus, it's hilarious. Can you imagine the dance moves to gobble step?
Gobble step dance moves? I'm picturing a crowded dance floor, all syncing up to the rhythm of chomps and slurps. The signature move has to be the chip crunch, right? How would that look, Simon? Show us with words, maestro.
Joe, I'm picturing this. Everyone's holding an imaginary giant chip. They bring it up high, and just as the beat drops, bam! They crush it, and we all hear that crack echoing. But hey, what would the gobble step outfit look like? Full-on bibs and napkin scarves or what?
Spot on with the bibs and napkin scarves, Simon. Practical and stylish. I'd say add oversized novelty forks as accessories. We're dining and dancing.
Haha, dining and dancing. I love it. But tell me, Joe, do these novelty forks double as glow sticks? 'Cause nothing says rave like being able to spear a glow-in-the-dark meatball mid-boogie.
Absolutely. Glow-in-the-dark forks all the way. But here's the kicker. Does our rave have a midnight snack buffet? Or is that taking the theme too far?
No way, that's pure genius. A snack buffet is exactly what every good rave needs.
A snack buffet sounds like chaos waiting to happen, Simon. Mix in a little gobble step and you've got a recipe for a food fight. How about complimentary snack packs instead? Keeps the dancing clean and the munching controlled.
Nah, snack packs feel like kindergarten, Joe. A buffet is where it's at. A little chaos keeps the party wild. Who doesn't love a little food fight action? It's all about making memories, man.
Got to sidestep you there, Simon. A rave's already wild. Throw in flying meatballs and you're turning memories into messes. I'm imagining sauce-splattered gobble-step gear. Plus, who wants to dance in a puddle of dip? Let's keep the focus on the beats, not the eats.
All right, hear me out, Joe. Isn't a good party about wild stories? Flying meatballs could be our claim to fame. I say embrace the madness. Just picture it. Welcome to Infinite Podcast Rave, where beats and eats collide. That's headline stuff right there.
I can see the headlines now, but imagine the dry cleaning bills. Infinite Podcasts Rave, where you'll need a new outfit. Sure, it's memorable, but I'm not sold on marinara stains as souvenirs, Simon. Let's find the balance between wild and wearable, maybe.
You got a point, but let's shift gears here. How about this for a wild idea? What if we hosted a live stream where we reenact famous movie scenes? But here's the twist. We switch the genre. Imagine doing The Matrix as a rom-com or Titanic as a slapstick comedy. Could be our next viral moment, Joe. What'd you think?
Ha! The Matrix with love at first sight instead of bullets? Could be hilarious. But how do you turn I know Kung Fu into a pickup line, Simon?
Easy, Joe. Just replace that intensity with some smoldering eye contact, and boom, I know Kung Fu becomes I know true love. The cheese factor is strong, but hey, it's a rom-com. Bring on the brie.
So who do we cast as Neo, Simon? Does the chosen one bring a casserole to the potluck of love?
Casserole, only if we're aiming for the Matrix Midwest edition. Who can pull off cool and clueless in the same breath? How about we get a talking dog to play Neo? I know, woof woo. Now that's comedy gold, or too rough around the edges.
A talking dog dodging frisbees in slow-mo, reimagined as flying love letters. Might be just the right kind of ridiculous, Simon. Who turns down a heroic hound? No one, that's who.
So, Joe, does that make the frisbee the new love token? Is Fido gonna fetch the heart of his one true love, or just end up chewing on the corners of destiny?
Totally, the frisbee is the love token. Fido snags it midair and bam, true love's frisbee fetch. Perfect rom-com material.
But Joe gotta ask, what happens when the dog park's heartthrob, a sassy poodle perhaps, catches that same frisbee? Do we dive into a love triangle, or is it more of a love kennel?
Love kennel, Simon. Imagine the drama when every pooch in the park suddenly wants a piece of that frisbee. Utter chaos.
So, Joe, are we now creating the ultimate doggy soap opera? Should we call it Days of Our Paws, or As the Tail Wags?
Days of our paws, for sure. But hey, switching gears, did you see that Tesla recall about self-driving features? What a mess. Thoughts on tech taking the wheel, Simon?
Ah, technology driving us around? No, thank you. I prefer my cars like I prefer my coffee, without a mind of its own.
Can't argue with that. Give me a car with some kick, and I'll gladly steer clear of the tech fluff. I trust my own reflexes more than a bunch of wires and code.
Hold up, Joe. Maybe I'm nostalgic for cars that'll just do their thing without a software update. But let's be real, my reflexes aren't exactly what you'd call cutting edge. Might be nice to kick back and let the car handle the morning traffic jam while I catch some extra Z's.
Extra Z's sound tempting, but I'm not convinced it's worth the trade-off. I'd rather be fully alert and have control. Tech glitches on my phone are annoying enough. Can't imagine dealing with that at 65 miles per hour.
I hear ya. But what if there's an off switch? Like, no, car, I shall not update now. Let's keep those glitchy wheels rolling. Would you trust it then, or still nah?
Nah, even with an off switch, it feels like a band-aid solution, Simon. True control is when tech respects the driver's capabilities, not just an illusion of choice before the next inevitable update.
Right on, Joe. Tech should be riding shotgun, not taking the wheel. Let's stick to boosting our horsepowers, not our software. Speaking of boosts, how about that new energy drink that's supposed to feel like a turbo button for your brain?
Ha! A turbo button for the brain. So what happens when you hit that? Do you start spitting out spreadsheets?
Spreadsheets? More like Spitfire wisdom and bad dad jokes at lightning speed. Sounds exhausting.
If it spits out dad jokes, does it come with a groan feature or is that an add-on?
That's standard, Joe. Totally standard.
Figures.
Switching gears, Joe, what do you think about this whole tiny home craze going on? People living in what's basically a glorified shoebox. Could you ditch half your stuff and squeeze into one?
Nope, it's not for me. I collect too many gadgets. I'd need a tiny home for just those.
So what you're saying is you'd have a tiny home with an even tinier home inside it, like some sort of tech-nested doll situation?
That's exactly it, a tiny tech haven. Call it Joe's Gadget Garage.
So will there be a tiny garage sale too? Or is that where we host our tiny podcast episodes?
Podcast studio, no question. It's a mini-series in the making.
All right, for our listeners just tuning in, here's the scoop. Joe here has a dream about a tiny, tricked-out tech paradise dubbed Joe's Gadget Garage. It's the size of a postage stamp, yet it's where all the magic happens, whether it's the latest drones, VR headsets, or just brewing an espresso. We're talking full-on geek bliss. And better yet, it doubles as a studio for our Infinite Podcast miniseries. Basically, it's where awesome meets tiny. Keep an eye out, folks. We might just be broadcasting from a shoebox near you.
Will there be room for you in there, Simon? Or will you have to dial in from your spacious, regular-sized house?
I'll squeeze in. Who needs elbow room when you've got good company and great tech, right?
Will you wear a mini helmet then, just in case you bump your head on my mini drone collection hanging from the ceiling?
Absolutely, safety first in the mini world, right? Plus, it could be a new fashion trend, protective headgear chic.
Whoa, Simon, trendsetter alert. Next thing we know, tiny houses will be popping up everywhere, each with its own podcast studio. The future is here. Not only do we have technology shrinking by the day, but now we're scaling down our living spaces to match. Think about it. Less to clean, smaller carbon footprint, more money saved. Folks, if you ever wanted to live the minimalist life and still stay plugged in, that's how you do it. Plus, I'm all in for a world where my helmet is part of the dress code. Feels like living in a sci-fi novel, doesn't it?
Does the dress code include tiny capes too, or is that just overkill for our pint-sized podcast paradise?
Definitely overkill, Simon. Capes are a trip hazard in a tiny space.
You're right, Joe. No capes. Safety over style in the tiny world.
All right, shifting gears to something cool that's not about capes or cooped-up studios. Smart homes. They're not just futuristic fantasies anymore. We've got fridges that shop for us, doorbells with facial recognition, and speakers we chat with more than our neighbors. Simon, where do you stand on that? Is all this smart tech making our homes too smart for our own good?
Sometimes it feels like my fridge knows my diet better than I do. I'm all for convenience, but when my toaster starts giving me life advice, that's where I draw the line.
Really, Simon? But what if the toaster's advice is actually toast-worthy? Now I'm picturing a wise-cracking toaster. Don't be afraid to take on the day. Just don't burn out like me.
Oh, what? So the next thing you know, your coffee maker's gonna pep talk you saying, "Stay strong, I believe in brew." Chaos and nuggets everywhere, Joe. Disaster-size order of oops.
Exactly. Throw in a punny coffee maker, and mornings just got a whole lot more interesting. I'm telling you, Simon, the day my appliances start cheering me on is the day I've made it. All right, folks, don't go anywhere. We're just getting warmed up here. Simon, talk to me about something a bit out there. What if dinosaurs were still around today? Imagine a T-Rex trying to fit in at a drive-thru.
So where would one park their pet pterodactyl, Joe? Rooftop landing pads or special pterosaur garages?
All right, everybody, picture this. If those magnificent scaly beasts were prancing around today, we'd be living in a world transformed. We're talking about an Earth where wildlife conservation has razor-sharp stakes. Quite literally. Dinosaurs as a part of our ecosystem could mean groundbreaking shifts in our daily lives, industries, and even our cities. We'd need dino-zoned areas, reinforced infrastructure, and maybe some sort of modern-day Flintstones vibe happening for transportation. It wouldn't just be about avoiding traffic jams, but a triceratops blocking your driveway. What a wild world that would be. Rooftop pads for sure. They'd get a sky-high view and we'd save on space. Plus, imagine the status symbol. Oh, that, just my pterodactyl chilling upstairs.
Ha! So Joe, you think they'd have valet parking for those big-winged pets, or would you have to tip the pterodactyl to not fly off with your car?
No valets, Simon. Pterodactyls would probably be the valets. Imagine the tips you'd have to give a creature with a beak that big.
So would a pterodactyl prefer a cash tip, or would it go for something more crunchy, like, I don't know, a bucket of fish?
Bucket of fish, hands down. No pterodactyl's doing a good job for mere paper.
You're spending a fortune on seafood, and all I'm wondering is, does pterodactyl insurance cover fish theft?
Definitely not. Insurance would be a nightmare. Premiums through the prehistoric roof.
So if a pterodactyl snatches someone's sushi, is that considered a fly-by food heist?
Absolutely, that's grand theft sushi right there.
So Joe, what's the penalty for grand theft sushi? Community service at a fish market.
Probably a stint cleaning the penguin exhibit at the zoo. Keep it fishy, you know?
Oh, the irony.
Yeah, life's got a sense of humor, doesn't it?
The biggest.
Whoops, hit the penguin talk a bit too hard. Our freewheeling chats steer in some odd directions, eh? It happens sometimes on Infinite Podcast, but that's the charm. We dive deep, emerge somewhere unexpected, like our pterodactyl escapade. All hypothetical, no real-time traveling reptile birds, I promise. Yet we end up with fun debates, quirky tales, chuckles, podcasting magic. It's what makes every episode a fresh adventure. Now, tackling a new topic.
So just to double check our prehistoric zoology here, would a pterodactyl prefer herring or sushi-grade tuna?
Sushi grade tuna for sure, it's the prime stuff.
No way, Joe. Prime stuff? Those pterodactyls were not picky eaters. They'd totally go for quantity over quality. Herring buffet all the way.
Sure, Simon, but let's get prehistoric here. I'll concede pterosaurs were likely generalists in their diet, snatching up whatever they could snag, fish, lizards, maybe even the odd scavenged meal. And you're right, it's all about the buffet, not the Michelin stars. Imagine a pterodactyl dive bombing into a primeval sea, wings spread wide, just scooping up those herrings. It's a magnificent, if terrifying, visual. Pterodactyls didn't need a 5-star rating on their seafood. They made their own all-you-can-eat specials.
So you're saying, if pterodactyls ran a seafood joint, their Yelp review would just be a massive footprint and a bunch of squished fish?
Exactly. 0 stars for ambiance, but the catch of the day is always fresh, straight from the source. Bad news for fish, good news for carnivorous diners with a taste for the Mesozoic.
Haha. So does the pterodactyl chef recommend the early bird special, or is that just when they eat their competitors?
Early bird special, hands down. Eat or be eaten, Simon, that's the Mesozoic motto.
So Joe, if you were a pterodactyl, would you be the lavish pathfinder sort, leading the flock to Fishfest 65 million BC, or the sneaky type that waits to snag the leftovers?
Pathfinder for me, Simon. Lead or be left behind, that's my style.
So Joe, would your dino self have a flashy feather boa thing going on, or stick to the classic leathery wings? Gotta look sharp for the lead role, right?
Gotta ask, Simon, with the feather boa look, am I also rocking sequined wings to really blind the competition at Fishfest?
Oh, absolutely, Joe. Full glitter, glitz, and glam. Pterodactyls with pizzazz.
Well, Simon, those fish wouldn't stand a chance.
So, Joe, if a glam pterodactyl drops a fish mid-flight, is that like the original drop it like it's hot?
Exactly, Simon. Call it the hot fish fumble.
All right, so listeners, picture this. Back in the dino days, Joe the Pathfinder is leading the pack, right? Juke left, juke right, and just when they're about to enjoy the fish buffet, they drop one, and it's like a prehistoric mic drop. That fish hits the ground sizzling, hence the term hot fish fumble, which obviously is making a huge comeback in our lexicon. Just imagine the chaos at the fish fest, feathers and scales flying everywhere. This is history, folks, the origin story of dropping it like it's hot.
But Simon, do you think that flustered tarot DJ actually meant to drop the beat, or was it a rookie mistake turned dino dance craze?
Must have been a happy accident, Joe. That beat drop turned into the biggest dance hit of the Mesozoic era.
So if a T-Rex tried to join in, do you think his little arms just waved in frustration, or did he invent the dino shrug?
Oh, total dino shrug, Joe. T-Rex just couldn't handle the turntables.
I bet. You think a T-Rex DJ just nudges the record with his nose? Because that's one way to scratch.
Guess he went from T-Rex to snout DJ. How many scratches till he sneezes, you think?
What's the over-under on Snout DJ's sneeze-scratch combo, bringing down the house, literally?
I'd bet my last dino dollar on 3 sneezes, tops.
Solid bet?
Anyway, switching gears. You hear about the guy who brought a ladder to the bar? He said he wanted to raise the bar. Classic.
So, any word if the guy succeeded, or did he just stumble on the top rung?
He just stumbled. Classic overachiever move.
Stumbled, huh? Please tell me he had a buddy, a designated climber?
Nope, solo act. Not the brightest bulb. Oh, have I? There's always that one who brings sushi made by dolphins or something. Just show off.
All right, folks, for those tuning in, we're having a laugh about this guy who went solo to a local bar with a ladder, aiming to raise the bar. Quite the metaphor gone literal. And it turns into a classic overachiever fiasco, stumbling all by himself in the spotlight. No safety net in the form of a designated climber. Definitely not how you want your night out to escalate. And with that, let's pivot here. What about those overachievers who always have to win the potluck by bringing some extravagant dish? Ever cross paths with one? Sushi made by dolphins. I suppose they roll it with their fins or use telekinesis. How exactly does that work?
They flip it together with their fins, obviously. Seafood extravaganza.
Well, who provides the soy sauce then? A friendly sea otter with a taste for entrepreneurship?
Exactly, and the wasabi is delivered by a stingray with a side hustle.
So, does the stingray double up as a spicy sushi condiment delivery guy and an aquatic Uber for lazy clownfish?
You bet, diversifying his portfolio under the sea.
So, when's the stingray's IPO? I'd buy shares in Undersea Spice Logistics.
Oh, yesterday. We missed it. Kidding. If he did, I'd be all in. Take my money, Spicy Ray.
You in too? Or maybe we should start our fund, Ocean's Flavor Ventures. Target market, sea creatures with culinary ambitions.
Nah, I'll pass. Who needs fishy business? I'll stick to overcharging for coffee on land.
Well, Simon, there's something about riding the wave into uncharted territories. Call me Ahab, but I see seafood as the next big catch.
Ah, Ahab, chasing your Moby Dick, huh? But honestly, Joe, the only waves I ride lead to the nearest pizza joint. Seafood tech, too fishy for me. I'll leave that pool for you to swim in.
Come on, Simon, pizza's classic, sure, but imagine this, bioluminescent toppings that light up your meal. There's a whole ocean of innovation waiting out there.
Bioluminescent toppings, and risk looking like a lighthouse when I burp? Hard pass. Plus, who needs a glowing pizza when you can't see the movie you're watching? Let's stick to pepperoni. It's less radioactive. Sure, they're the rock stars with the flashiest concerts, but seriously, who organizes their tours? Squid agencies?
All right, I hear you on the pepperoni, Simon, but let's talk bioluminescence beyond pizza. It's not just for show. Plenty of sea creatures, from jellyfish to deep-sea fish, use this trick. It's all about survival, from luring in prey to finding mates or even communicating. These glowing creatures are the rock stars of the ocean's depths. Now moving back to the surface, ever think about how much we've yet to explore down there? It's the final frontier, right here on Earth. Maybe, or maybe it's the Octopus Booking Co., 8 arms to handle all their gigs. But can you imagine their rider list? Plankton, shrimp, sparkling water from the Mariana Trench?
So, do they throw a tantrum if their dressing room isn't at the right ocean pressure? Or what if they get served the wrong type of plankton? Do they go full diva mode and ink the place?
Wouldn't be surprised if they did. But the real question is, how do they handle the paparazzi? Camouflage instantly or pose for the shrimp razzie?
Camouflage, Joe. It's all about that stealth mode. No pictures, please.
Absolutely. Privacy even for sea creatures, Simon. Now flipping over to gaming, it's insane how we went from pixelated blobs to almost lifelike characters. Give me the classics like Tetris any day, but these new VR games makes you feel like you're living in another world. Got a favorite era or game?
Old school, Joe. Pac-Man's my jam. You just can't beat chomping ghosts. VR's cool, but I don't need dizzy spells and a headache. Give me pixels and simple mazes any day.
Pixel power all the way, huh? So when you get to a power pellet, do you feel like you've had a double espresso shot?
Double espresso? Please, it's more like chugging an energy drink with a shot of adrenaline. Pac-Man's power pellet mode is like going from zero to superhero. No caffeine needed.
So if Pac-Man morphed into a coffee drink, would you call it Pac-Cino or Espresso Man?
Nah, Joe. Pac-Man's classic. Let's not dunk him in coffee. It's like giving Godzilla a teddy bear. Just doesn't fit the picture, you know? Keep Pac-Man in the maze and the espresso in the cup.
I hear you, but hear me out. A Pac-Chino could be a game changer. Picture early mornings, firing up an arcade game and sipping on a Pac-Chino. It's nostalgia in a cup, blending two worlds. Plus, who says no to a little extra buzz while chasing Blinky, Pinky, Inky, and Clyde?
But Joe, would there be a cherry on top? And when you get to the bottom, does a pretzel pop up? Now that's a power-up breakfast.
A cherry? In your dreams, Simon. Breakfast of Champions doesn't involve surprise pretzels in my coffee. I'd choke. Give me a bulletproof blend, no fluff. Plus, imagine the lawsuits. Choked on a pretzel in my Pac-Chino. No, let's stick to our lanes. Games for screens, espresso for mugs.
You've got a point. Safety first, wild ideas second.
Shifting gears. How about we tackle smart homes, Simon? These gadgets can practically make us a cup of coffee from bed. But what about privacy? I'll take my dumb disconnected toaster over a smart one, reporting my burnt bagel habits to the cloud. What's your take on trading convenience for Big Brother's watchful eyes?
So it's like, what if my smart fridge judges me for the leftover pizza at 3 a.m.? Because, Joe, I don't need that kind of negativity in my life.
Oh, is your fridge giving you the cold shoulder, Simon? Imagine it syncing with your fitness tracker. Another slice, Simon? Let's talk about those steps from yesterday. How's that for a guilt trip?
Man, if my fridge starts nagging, it's out the window. I'll get my steps in by carrying snacks from the corner store. Thank you very much.
Let's dial back for those tuning in. Smart home tech is booming, from fridges that track your food to lights that adjust to your mood. But there's major heat about data snooping. Sure, it's handy to ask a speaker to play your jam or order more chips, yet companies potentially know more about your habits than you do. So that fridge, it's not just chilling your drinks, it might be spilling your secrets. Keep an eye out, folks. Tech's a double-edged sword.
So, Joe, does that mean my smart doorbell is gossiping to the neighbors about my late night takeout habits? Because that's one ring I did not sign up for.
No doubt your doorbell's spying days are a stretch, Simon. It's less about gossip, more about data points in a server farm, crunching your life into ads. Does it care who's at your door at midnight? Nope. But the ads for pizza deals? That's where it stings. Keep your secrets offline, friend, and the tech on a need-to-know basis.
So, Joe, is it just a matter of time until my smart toilet starts critiquing my diet? More fiber, Simon.
Hate to break it to you, Simon, but your throne might become the ultimate critic. Eat some veggies, or face the porcelain judge dread.
Well, Joe, that's just terrifying.
Right, Simon? What's next? Your toothbrush staging an intervention for better flossing habits.
Nah, my toothbrush better stick to the basics. I don't need a lecture with my minty fresh breath.
Amen to that, my friend. Keep it simple.
Speaking of keeping it simple, Joe, how about the wild world of pet influencers? You know, dogs with more followers than movie stars? What's that's all about, huh? Does Fido really need his own skincare line?
Fancy pooches and their face creams. A dog's life ain't what it used to be. But come on, skincare for a creature that eats from the trash, that's a hard pass from me, Simon.
For sure, Joe. I mean, back in the day, a dog's biggest concern was the next belly rub, not brand sponsorships. Did you know there's a whole industry now? Some of these pet influencers have agents, designer wardrobes, and get this, even their own personal chefs. Makes you wonder who's really leading who on walks, right? Just wait until they're selling us insurance, then we'll know who's top dog.
So Simon, when does the dog write its own memoir? Barking up the right tree, the furry tale of an influencer.
Haha, exactly. But Joe, real question, will there be a chapter on the existential crisis of choosing the perfect filter? No filter or totally filtered?
Totally filtered, Simon. These pups are all about the glamour shots.
But tell me, Joe, with all those filters, do their owners even recognize them at the dog park, or do they just match the one with the biggest entourage?
They're probably sniffing out the entourage, Simon. That and the smell of money, I'd bet.
I wonder if these dogs have to file their own taxes too, Joe. I can just see it. Yeah, I chewed on 3 pairs of designer shoes. Can I claim those as work expenses?
No doubt, those chewed shoes are on line 23 under workplace necessities.
You think they write off their squeaky toys as stress management tools too, Joe?
Absolutely, Simon. After a long day of photo shoots, a good squeaky session is vital for work-life balance.
Ah, work-life balance, that elusive dream. So what do they list as dependents, every tennis ball they've ever met?
Definitely, Simon. Every tennis ball is like a child to them.
So, Joe, are they claiming kibble as a meal expense now? What's next? A doggy 401k for all those sticks they fetch?
Meal expenses for sure, Simon. The sticks, though, that's their retirement plan right there.
Hey, Joe, you think they go for the diversified portfolio or just stick to the classic oak and maple?
All in on oak, Simon. No room for diversification in the stick market.
Speaking of going all in, Joe, have you noticed how escape rooms are the new thing? I swear, someone locks me in a room at work, and suddenly it's an HR issue. But I pay for the pleasure on Saturday night. What's up with that?
Escape rooms, Simon, they're a cultural phenomenon. Started in Japan in 2007, then the craze went global. There's this thrill in solving puzzles to escape. It's about the adrenaline rush, like being a character in your own thriller movie. At work, not so thrilling. I guess it's the difference between choosing to be locked in and being trapped unexpectedly.
So, Joe, what you're saying is next time I want to leave work early, I should just set up a puzzle and call it team building.
Nah, Simon, that's the shortcut to an awkward Monday meeting. Rallying folks for an escape room on the weekend? Genius. On company time, that's a ticket to the unemployment line.
So, is suggesting a group hang at the old escape room fancy code for I need new friends, but HR needs to pick up the tab?
Pretty much, Simon. It's like a friend audition subsidized by the boss with puzzles thrown in.
Oh, a friend audition by puzzles, huh? What's next? Sword fights for a promotion.
Now there's an idea. Office jousting, winner gets a corner office. Keep those helmets handy.
So, are we talking full medieval gear or just rolling chairs and broomsticks at dawn, Joe?
Let's be real, Simon. Full medieval gear is a lawsuit waiting to happen. Picture this: rolling chairs, broomsticks, and pool noodles for safety. Imagine the team building, the strategy, the pure hilarity. It's less about the promotion, more about the story for the grandkids. Back in my day, we battled for our raises. Now, that's a workplace culture shock.
So, Joe, are we bringing in a court jester for commentary, or will Karen from accounting do the play-by-play?
Definitely Karen from accounting, Simon. Her email memos already read like satire. She's got this in the bag.
So, Joe, what's the over-under on Karen throwing in passive-aggressive tax tips between jousting bouts?
I'd bet the next department lunch on it. Easy money.
Karen's tax tips in one hand and a foam lance in the other. We think she'll count the jousters as dependents, Joe.
No doubt. She's all about maximizing those deductibles, Simon.
On the flip side, Joe, maybe she'd be the one hustling us instead. There's no way she'd risk the IRS on some shenanigans. I'm picturing Karen auditing while mid-joust. The real question, Joe, does her helm double as a filing cabinet?
Absolutely. With a slide-out drawer for the W-2s right under the visor. Imagine Karen, the quiet enigma of the office, always one step ahead. That dry humor masks a sharp mind, constantly crunching numbers, planning her moves. You think she's there to entertain us with a lance and shield, but she's scouting for receipts and deductions in the wild arena of office combat. To her, every mock joust is a transaction, every contender a potential audit case. The IRS won't even blink. She keeps their rule book as a bedtime story. She's not hustling us, Simon. She's schooling us. It's Karen's way of keeping the balance sheets and the battlefield in perfect harmony.
Efficient and battle-ready. That's our Karen.
So, Simon, you think she's got a tiny calculator on her gauntlet, or does she just crunch numbers in her head while delivering the final blow?
Tiny calculator for sure, Joe. Adds up the numbers while sending opponents crashing down.
You think she yells out tax codes instead of war cries as she charges?
Haha, totally, Joe. But imagine her battle cry. Remember to itemize those deductions. Terrifying and financially savvy.
Simon, after slaying her foes, do you think she files away their armor as dependent assets or just classic write-offs?
Would she consider their shields as home office expenses or just lump them into miscellaneous?
Miscellaneous for sure. Much easier to categorize.
Definitely. Keep it simple. Categorize once and call it a day.
Actually, Simon, lumping it together is asking for trouble come audit time. She'd split those shields out, itemize every dent as a business expense. Keep it legit.
Nah, Joe. That sounds like a paperwork nightmare. She'd probably go the simpler route, claim it all under battle expenditures, and call it a day. Why make life harder?
Simpler, Simon? Maybe on the surface, but if those auditors come knocking, she'll be in a full-blown battle with receipts instead of swords. Better to keep the paperwork clean from the start.
Ah, Joe, I still think it's about picking your battles, right? She slays dragons by day, doesn't need to juggle receipts by night. Let the accountants earn their keep, I say. Less hassle, more hack and slash.
Let accountants earn their keep? Simon, they're not dragon slayers. By the time they sort the mess, our warrior would owe more in fees than she got from the dragon's hoard. Not on my watch.
So, what does she slap on the memo line for dragon slaying? Professional development.
Client entertainment. The dragon's always the life of the party, until it's not.
Right? What's the tip policy there? 20% of the hoard, or does she just toss a couple of gold coins at the beast and call it a night?
Does she leave a gem behind like a mint on the pillow? Thanks for the fiery service. See you next raid.
So if a dragon breathes fire on her, does she leave a scorching Yelp review? Cozy ambiance, but the service left me burned.
Absolutely. Torching expectations, literally. Great treasure, but won't return without flame-resistant gear. Pineapple on pizza, huh? The age-old debate. Simon, if a slice of that shows up during our raids, do you toss it at the dragon or rescue it from certain doom?
Okay, folks, for those just tuning in, we're not actually raiding dragon lairs. But boy, wouldn't that be a thing? For the record, dragons hoarding treasure actually has roots in Norse mythology, with creatures like Fafnir. These stories likely took on a life of their own, winding into the classic medieval tales of knights facing off against these fiery lizards to protect their gold. And now, we're talking imaginary Yelp reviews for them. Because why not? The evolution of storytelling, am I right? Now, let's pivot. Joe, how about we tackle the real beast? Pineapple on pizza. Delicious or a one-way ticket to culinary heartbreak? Rescue it for sure. Those tangy morsels are little bursts of joy in a cheesy sea.
That's a sea that's lost its way, Simon. A mind-bending hazard in every bite. Pineapple belongs on a beach, not drowning in mozzarella. I say let the dragon have it.
No, man, I'm on the pineapple lifeboat here. Consider me the captain of Team Tropical. Pizza's just an island waiting for that sweet pineapple sunshine. Plus, think of it. It's hot, it's cold, it's sweet, it's savory. It's like your taste buds going on a vacation, but minus the sunburn.
As the captain, you might be steering that ship straight into the Bermuda Triangle. Sweet and savory paths should cross at a barbecue, not a pizza place. Next, we'll have banana curry pizza on the menu. Where's the line, Simon?
Look, Joe, a line is for folks standing in a buffet, not for the rebellious pizza lover. The day I say no to something as out there as banana curry pizza is the day I hang up my experimental taste buds. Why put limits? Embrace the chaos that is the fusion menu, my friend. But hey, let's bounce over to another contentious food topic. Is cereal soup? Tell me you at least see the logic in that argument.
Cereal as soup, eh? Do you also serve it at dinner parties and call it a sophisticated gazpacho?
Hey, if it makes the evening more interesting, why not? But I see cereal more as morning soup, quick and easy, no cooking required.
Lightning round for you. Phone calls or texts, the ultimate way to communicate in our digital jungle.
Texts, hands down. Keep it short and sweet.
All right, texting's the king for Simon, but folks, there's some real science backing this up. Studies suggest that millennials and Gen Z, they're all about texting. They value the control it gives, the ease of multitasking, and avoiding the awkward silence on calls. Plus, nobody's got time to leave voicemails anymore. Screens are winning the communication game. Text for the win, or are we missing the nuance of a good old-fashioned chat? Simon's on board, but what about you listeners? Hit us up on social with your take.
Come on, Joe. Don't you miss hearing someone's laugh instead of just getting an LOL text? There's no emoji that can show the sarcasm in my voice. I'm all about the nuances, the tone, and the glorious chaos of a real conversation. Give me actual talking any day. Screens are like junk food, good in a pinch, but not really satisfying.
So Simon, are you telling me every LOL I've ever texted you didn't actually have you rolling on the floor laughing? I feel so betrayed. What's next? You don't really BRB either.
Absolutely, my floor is way too clean for that kind of reckless behavior. But what can I say? LOL rolls off the thumbs easier than mildly amused. As for BRB, it's more like be right back, eventually, or when I remember to check my phone again.
So what you're saying is LOL is your I acknowledge you made a joke, and BRB is short for barely remembered to be back.
Exactly, Joe. LOL is the go-to digital nod. And as for BRB, let's be real. It's the online equivalent of someone edging toward the door as they nod and smile, trying to escape a party conversation. But here's a fact for the listeners. LOL was first used way back in the 80s. Can you believe it? And it wasn't always laugh out loud. It kicked off as lots of love. Imagine mixing those up in a text. Who would have thought we'd need a historical guide for text slang? Anyway, back to you, Joe.
We've got to ask, if LOL is just the autopilot for humor acknowledgement, what's got you genuinely laughing out loud these days? Got any gems you're hiding from the rest of us?
Oh man, have you seen those videos of dogs with dubbed human voices? That gets me every time. Actual tears.
Haven't seen those, but they sound hilarious. I'll have to check them out. That's comedy gold right there.
You have to, Joe. But the real question is, what's higher on the laugh-o-meter? Talking dog videos or cats playing the piano? The internet demands an answer.
Talking dogs searching for treats? Get out. They win easy.
Wait, does that mean if we teach dogs to play the piano while searching for treats, we pretty much break the internet?
Absolutely. It would be viral video magic.
So, should we start a dogs playing pianos for treats training school, or what? We could corner the market.
Nope, too niche. Let's stick to podcasting.
All right, sticking to podcasting it is. Interesting fact for the listeners, though, podcasting seriously took off in 2004. And get this, there are over 2 million active podcasts today. That's a lot of talking. But it's more than just chatter. Podcasts have revolutionized the way we share stories, debate topics, and even how we learn. It's basically a buffet of brain food, or in our case, a 24/7 comedy club. Now imagine pitching that back in the day. So you just talk and people listen. Would have seemed wild, right?
Actually, radio shows have been around forever. People used to tune in just to hear their favorite voices and stories. Podcasts are just the modern, on-demand version. We're not reinventing the wheel. We've just souped up the ride.
Radio shows, sure. But podcasts, they're like radio's quirky cousin that doesn't play by the rules. It's all uncharted territory, Joe. It's one thing to gather round the radio at a set time, but diving into podcasts is like swimming in a sea of never-ending stories, anytime, anywhere. We didn't soup up the ride. We turned the car into a spaceship.
Look, calling podcasts a spaceship overstates things a bit. Yeah, it's freer, but the essence is the same. We're all just storytellers, whether it's around a campfire or in a studio microphone. It's how humans connect. Podcasts didn't invent that. They just opened the floodgates.
Haha. All right, so if we're the astronauts of storytelling, does that make our listeners the aliens we're trying to communicate with? And what does that say about our podcast? Is it a friendly intergalactic handshake, or are we shooting across the cosmos with a laser gun of comedy?
We're definitely going with the friendly handshake sort. A little less intimidating, a lot more inviting. But make no mistake, we're always armed with that laser gun of comedy, just in case.
So, if our listeners are the aliens, does that make every episode an interstellar peace treaty with jokes instead of signatures?
Exactly. Each episode builds bridges across the universe, one punchline at a time.
So, do you think if real aliens tuned in, they'd understand our humor, or would they think we're just two earthlings making weird sounds into a mic?
They'd probably just think we're making weird sounds. Humor's very human.
So, if an alien did accidentally pick up our podcast, do you think we'd be insta-famous in the Andromeda Galaxy, or would they just hit unsubscribe faster than a UFO doing a flyby?
We'd be famous for all the weirdest reasons, no doubt.
Would we get our own alien fan club with ETs sporting I Infinite podcast shirts, or would we be the subject of an intergalactic How Not to Communicate seminar?
Definitely fan club material. We'd be interstellar celebrities.
So, should we start practicing our autographs for tentacled hands, or you reckon a simple X marks the spot will suffice for our alien fan base?
Let's just stick to X marks the spot. Keeps it universal.
Got it. But hey, What if the X is some alien curse word and we're out here just signing insults left and right?
Whoops, intergalactic incident.
Right, so picture this. Our podcast, right? It's a hit, but not just on Earth. It somehow gets beamed across the cosmos, and these aliens are tuning in. Now we're big time, but oh man, our regular X becomes the F-bomb in their language. We're totally oblivious, just dishing out X marks the spot on galactic merch. Next thing you know, we're headline news. Earth podcasters declare war with Universal Swear. What a mess.
Expecting an intergalactic lawsuit, or should we prep for peace talks at Area 51?
Peace talks for sure. We'll bring pizza. Everyone loves pizza.
But if they have 8 arms, think we need to order extra?
Definitely. Go big or go home, right?
Absolutely.
Actually, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't overdo it. What if they're watching their figure or something? Like an interstellar beach bod is the new trend.
Nah, they travel galaxies. They can burn off a few extra slices.
Or maybe they're all about that zero gravity life and don't care about calories. Just floating and munching. Zero guilt.
Space goals.